What's your highest level Dungeons and Dragons character? And in asking that, I guess we have to explore a little bit the difference between editions of Dungeons and Dragons and how they've approached the various character classes and what that represents in the game. The highest I've achieved, I'd have to go back and look at all of my character sheets that I've saved over the years and so many amazing D&D memories. But as an example, two stand out, and they both happen to be arcane classes. I enjoy playing magic users, wizards, sorcerers, but I'll sprinkle a little bit of monk and fighter here and there. Recently playing a druid. But in focusing on that, Advanced Dungeons and Dragons, playing a magic user. Now, what was interesting in AD&D, the concept of character balance across the classes really wasn't there for a variety of reasons. So at certain levels, certain characters, based on their abilities, their hit point pool, and what they could access, were a lot more powerful. Take a 4th level thief, a rogue, against a 4th level magic user, wizard. The wizard is going to have a lot more power over the thief. So what we saw in AD&D was this scale of experience points that not all the characters leveled up at the same time. And this was always an interesting experience because playing a magic user, you really had to work at the levels. You really had to kind of guard yourself because you were always a little bit behind in levels compared to the balance of the party. And I'm generalizing a little bit, but thieves, monks, they tended to advance. Clerics, they tended to advance faster. Fighters, barbarians, paladins, about somewhere in the middle there. And then, of course, magic users at the very, very far end. But in the narrative, this was offset by the idea that you have all of this tremendous power. And certainly spellcasting is powerful in D&D, but in Advanced Dungeons and Dragons, it was extremely, extremely powerful for a variety of reasons. So if you were playing a wizard and you were 5th or 6th level, 8th level, that was massive. I mean, that was huge. Level 10, level 12, level 15, I won't say it was unheard of, and I can only speak for my immediate gaming group at the time. That was maybe one of us made it that far. And I'm talking about going from level 1 to that level. I mean, certainly maybe you could make up a character and jump in. But from that perspective, one of my greatest character achievements was Kryn, and I'm really excited that we're getting a chance to revisit Dragonlance. We're getting a chance to revisit Kryn, not only with updated, I should say re-imaged. I don't like update because update implies like the previous incarnation, something wasn't that good or it kind of pits one against the other. Every edition of D&D, as it's evolved, has brought something new, unique, refreshing to the game. I want to experience different D&D things. So certainly playing Kryn and continuing to play Kryn in Advanced Dungeons and Dragons and Dragonlance, I'm excited to see what that would feel like in the current edition. But in Dragonlance, set in that, the test of the Tower of High Sorcery. So at certain points, usually around level 3, you would take this test to officially join the 3 orders, one of the 3 orders, or you could kind of go rogue and do your own thing. But from that perspective, this was a very, very interesting test because your wizard, your magic user, was still at a low enough level. It was essentially a one-on-one type adventure. The DM would create literally a test for your character, and it's like it was kind of like a mini dungeon and put you through it. Very hard. You just had to survive. It wasn't about beating everything, and certainly challenge rating didn't exist, so you really had to be very, very focused. So I say that because my Advanced Dungeons and Dragons characters, by today's standard, be like Fritz, level 5, level 8, level 9. That's low level, right? D&D 5, you play a couple of sessions, there you go. So from that perspective, those character levels were low, but they were very high. Now, Dungeons and Dragons 3.5, 3.x, 3.0, as it evolved to Pathfinder, I played a lot of this edition, a lot, almost as much as AD&D, and I guess almost as much as 5th right now. For a long time, we had 2 gaming groups going. playing once during the week on Thursdays for a few hours. And on Saturdays, literally like all day Saturday. We'd start at like 10 or 11 and go to like 10 or 11 at night. I'm playing both the 3.x rule set. And what was interesting is characters that I've played there, I made it to level 18, 16, 18, 20 in the course of about 8 months to a year. And that's kind of playing every week, more or less. I mean, we'd miss if the holidays fell on that week or occasionally miss, but for the most part, absolutely no. And I maybe missed like one session. I mean, the stars really aligned at the time for me to be able to play D&D. Those characters went up pretty high. We did have a few characters that started at level 0. There's a classic AD&D module, and I'm trying to think of the name right now. I'm totally forgetting it. Essentially, you're part of a militia. You're like adventurers in training, and you're a level 0 character. You're not like a human or a dwarf or an elf commoner, but you're level 0. And the idea is, as you went through the adventure, the outpost, the village is kind of attacked, you defend it, you explore, just the militia's left, they send you out literally into the swamp. And as you explore, as you level up to level 1, based on the decisions that you make, the DM will select your character class. And of course, you could choose to override that and play and get training, whatever you want. So it was an interesting kind of pre-concept because even in the advanced Dungeons & Dragons and Dungeons & Dragons world, level 1 is kind of a big deal. I mean, we always start at level 1, but think about what that represents. Let's just talk about the fighter. A level 1 fighter, they've had some training. They're a professional. You're a professional. You know how to use various arms and armor. If we're talking about a wizard, the fact that you can cast some level 1 spells, you're no longer an apprentice. You're out there. So level 1, just in terms of the D&D world compared to the commoner template and some of the different low-level encounters, it's kind of a big deal. And of course, you advance from there. What has been interesting in playing various characters. So level 5, 6, 7, 8 for Advanced Dungeons & Dragons. I think the highest I made it was 10 or 13. That was massive. I think I had a 13th level fighter. Just absolutely fantastic. D&D 3.0, 3.x, level 16, 18, 20. Current edition of D&D, it's been lower. It's been lower levels. And it's been lower levels not because I'm not playing D&D, but because for the most part, more so in this edition than other editions, I've been a dungeon master. It's kind of a player in itself, and we've explored that concept. Characters, I've made it to about level 10 or 11. Right now I've got a druid, level 4, playing that, continuing through there. So it's been interesting how things have been slowed a little bit in terms of my table time for the current edition of D&D. But I've noticed leveling up happens very, very, very fast. This idea, and of course, as a DM, challenge ratings, you're always able to adjust. But the idea is if you play a session or two of D&D, solid sessions, you're probably going to level. And I noticed in the current edition of D&D, you're constantly getting new toys, clickies, things to play with, powers, abilities, new things you can do on the table. It's constantly feeding you that to keep you engaged in the game. Whether that's good or bad, that's debate. I currently enjoy playing this rule set, but leveling up is certainly a different flavor compared to other editions of D&D. So in exploring that in terms of characters, I find it was some years ago I would try to chase D&D levels, right? I mean, who doesn't want to level up? You get to roll for hit points, you get some new abilities, you might be able to use some more gear and different things. And also on the Dungeons and Dragons DM side, as you level up, the Dungeon Master is going to have new challenges, more encounters. You're going to start encountering some very interesting magic items, some of the wondrous items and more powerful magic items. Those things are just not going to be rolling around like, level 1 dungeon. So that was always exciting. And it's kind of interesting, the arc of D&D, where in the beginning you chase levels, and I still sometimes do. I want to level up. That's the excitement of the game, the power of the game. But then as you level up and as you play, what I try to do is appreciate the character for where they are right now. And I'm not saying I don't want to level. I'm not saying I don't want experience. It's like, Fritz, you don't need that share of experience. Give it to us because we need to level up faster. Like, no, I want my cut of the adventure. But every character class has an interesting flavor and an interesting perspective at the level it's at, or I should say level brackets, like, levels 1 to 3, 4 to 6, 4 to 8, really 4 to 6, 8 to 10, and then, of course, higher into those epic type levels. So what a journey. The one thing that I have not done yet, and I say yet because they're still on my shelf, and I think about it every now and then, Dungeons and Dragons. Dungeons and Dragons. So you've got Advanced Dungeons and Dragons, which was advanced with a lot of tables that you're constantly rolling on. People think Rollmaster is tons of rolling. Advanced Dungeons and Dragons is tons of rolling for the Dungeon Master. Playing Redbox, classic D&D, we played that for a long, long time. For the simple reason it was streamlined. And I have to say, I love AD&D. If you asked me my favorite edition or what I would enjoy playing the most, just classic D&D. It's streamlined enough. It's basic enough, the basic red box. Playing that game, I've had the most interesting D&D experiences because bringing in players that are not role players, they're not board gamers, they're just different areas of life. The rules simulate D&D and they give you that D&D experience, but they're streamlined, they're basic, they're very straightforward. Anyone can sit down and play that character. So we've had the best parties, the most diverse parties in terms of players and people and different things playing that. So I think I would have this memorized. You guys will correct me. You jump in basic red box. Then you go to the blue box. These are different levels that it covers. Then you go to green, then black, or is it black and green? I think it's green, black. Then after that, gold. The gold box, you essentially become immortal, literally. There's like a dude flying on it. Your character has been adventuring. So the different levels in Dungeons and Dragons go through these different rule books and these different modules, these different encounters. And at the end, you become a god, functionally immortal, running into the realms. I have yet to do that. My D&D characters have never made it to that because I was primarily the DM, and I'm kind of already immortal as it is if I'm the DM. But one day. So I leave that and I ask the question, Dungeons and Dragons levels, what was your highest character? And what edition for D&D? Because I think it needs that clarification. And in moving with that and exploring different types of D&D, if you've had the good fortune to play then, leveling up. What place does it have in D&D? And do we chase experience or do we kind of just enjoy the journey on the way? Or a little bit of both?